Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to talk about the best years in gaming history. As you may know, 2023 is shaping up to be one of the best years in gaming history, with so many amazing games coming out every month. This made me wonder what were the other years that were equally or even more impressive in the history of gaming. Which years gave us the most incredible games, the most innovative consoles, and the most unforgettable experiences? Well, I did some research and came up with my own ranking of the top 10 best years in gaming history. Now, before I start, I want to say that this list is not 100% objective. It's based on a mix of facts and opinions, and it's influenced by my own personal tastes and memories. I was born in 1997, so I didn't experience some of the older games and consoles firsthand, but I try to include them based on their quality and impact. Of course, you may have a different opinion, which is totally fine. In fact, I would love to hear from you and your own ranking in the comment section below. Tell me what are your favorite years in gaming history and what are your fun memories of those years. Also, if you want to see more top 10 lists like this one, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you will be notified about my next video. I'm currently working on the top 10 best games of the 2023 so far, so stay tuned for that one. But for now, let's get started with a countdown of the best years in gaming history.
I need something smuggled out of the city.
Just cargo, Joel.
We start our list with the 2013, a year that saw the release of some of the most acclaimed and successful games in gaming history. Some of the games that defined this year were The Last of Us, Grand Theft Auto 5, BioShock Infinite, Tomb Raider, and Super Mario 3D World. These games not only impressed players with their graphics, gameplay, and music, but also offer them unforgettable experiences that change gaming forever. For example, The Last of Us was Naughty Dog's post-apocalyptic survival game that featured a gripping story, a realistic gameplay, and an emotional bond between the main characters. Grand Theft Auto 5 was Rockstar's biggest and most ambitious open-world game that featured 3 playable protagonists, a massive map, and a variety of activities. BioShock Infinite was Irrational Games' first-person shooter that featured a dystopian floating city, a moral choice system, and a mind-blowing twist. Tomb Raider was Crystal Dynamics' reboot of its action-adventure series that featured a younger and more vulnerable Lara Croft, a cinematic gameplay, and a survival system. And Super Mario 3D World was Nintendo's first Mario game for the Wii U that featured 4-player co-op, creative levels, and new power-ups.
So, they have beaten you, huh?
Next we have 2009, a year that marked the end of a decade and the beginning of a new era for gaming. Some of the games that defined this year were Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, Batman Arkham Asylum, Assassin's Creed 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and Minecraft. Yes, Minecraft, the sandbox game that would go on to become one of the best-selling and most influential games of all time, was first released as an alpha version in 2009. 2009 was also the year that Sony released the PlayStation 3 Slim, a redesign and a cheaper version of its console that boosted its sales and popularity. Uncharted 2 Among Thieves was Naughty Dog's sequel to its action-adventure game that featured stunning graphics, cinematic gameplay, and a charismatic protagonist. Batman Arkham Asylum was Rocksteady's superhero game that featured a dark and atmospheric setting, a fluid combat system, and a faithful adaptation of the Batman universe. Assassin's Creed 2 was Ubisoft's sequel to its historical action game that featured a new and iconic protagonist, a rich and detailed world, and refined gameplay. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was Infinity Ward's sequel to its modern-day shooter that featured an intense and controversial campaign, a robust and addictive multiplayer mode, and a cooperative mode called Spec Ops. 2009 was also a year that saw many other notable games such as Left 4 Dead 2, Borderlands, Dragon Age Origins, Demon's Souls, Street Fighter 4, Plant vs. Zombies, League of Legends, and Angry Birds. These games not only delivered fun and engaging gameplay, but also introduced new genres and mechanics that would influence countless games to come. For example, Demon's Souls was From Software's action RPG that featured a challenging and rewarding gameplay, a dark and mysterious world, an innovative online system that started off a genre now known as Souls-like. Moving on to number 8, we have 1997, a year that witnessed some of the most iconic and groundbreaking games in history. Some of the games that made this year unforgettable were Final Fantasy VII, GoldenEye 007, Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, Grand Theft Auto. These games not only revolutionized their genre but also introduced new features and mechanics that would influence countless games to come. For example, Final Fantasy VII was the first game in the series to use 3D graphics and cinematic cutscenes. GoldenEye 007 was one of the first console shooters to feature multiplayer modes. Castlevania Symphony of the Night popularized Metroidvania style of exploration and progression. Grand Theft Auto pioneered the open world sandbox genre. At number 7, we have 2001, a year that saw the birth of 2 new console platforms and some of the most influential games ever made. Some of the games that defined this year were Halo Combat Evolved, Grand Theft Auto 3, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and Final Fantasy X. These games not only pushed the boundaries of graphics, gameplay, and storytelling, but also established new franchises and fan bases that will last for decades. For example, Halo Combat Evolved was launch title for Microsoft's first console, the Xbox, and became one of the most successful and influential shooter of all time. Grand Theft Auto 3 brought the open world sandbox genre to a new level of realism and interactivity. Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty delivered a complex and controversial narrative that challenged players' expectations and perceptions. Super Smash Bros. Melee was a sequel to Nintendo's crossover fighting game that features characters from various franchises and became one of the most popular and competitive games ever made. And Final Fantasy X was the first game in the series to feature voice acting and fully 3D environments.
Open your eyes.
At number 6, we have 2017, a year that witnessed some of the most innovative and diverse games in recent memories. Some of the games that made this year remarkable were The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5, Nier Automata, and Super Mario Odyssey. These games not only impressed players with their stunning graphics, gameplay, and music, but also offered them unique and immersive experiences that challenged and rewarded them in different ways. For example, Breath of the Wild reinvented the Zelda formula by giving players an open and dynamic world to explore and interact with. Horizon Zero Dawn introduced a new and captivating setting and a story that featured a female protagonist and robotic dinosaurs. Persona 5 combined a stylish and engaging turn-based RPG with a social simulation that tackled themes of rebellion and justice.
I beg you, please overcome this game and save the world.
Nier Automata blended various genres and perspectives to create a complex and emotional narrative that explored the meaning of life and existence. And Super Mario Odyssey brought back the classic 3D platforming gameplay of Mario with new mechanics and worlds that delighted players of all ages. At number 5, we have 2004, a year that saw the release of some of the most influential and beloved games in gaming history. Some of the games that defined this year were Half-Life 2, World of Warcraft, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Doom 3, and Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. These games not only delivered amazing graphics, gameplay, and storytelling, but also created new genres and communities that would shape the gaming landscape for years to come. For example, Half-Life 2 was the sequel to Valve's groundbreaking FPS that featured advanced physics, AI, and level design. World of Warcraft was Blizzard's massively multiplayer online role-playing game that became one of the most popular and influential games ever made. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas was Rockstar's biggest and most ambitious open-world game that featured a sprawling map, a rich story, and a variety of activities.
Seem like I'm on impossible missions, twisted predicaments, hostile positions.
Doom 3 was id Software's reboot of its classic shooter that featured a dark and atmospheric horror setting and impressive graphics.
What a lie.
And Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater was Hideo Kojima's prequel to his stealth action series that featured a Cold War era setting, a survival system, and a cinematic story.
You're the only one capable of pulling this off. Screw this one up, we'll both be 6 feet up.
Many games in 1998 introduced new features, mechanics, and narratives that would shape the future of gaming, making it a year of innovation and diversity in video games. It is regarded as one of the best years in video game history due to the release of numerous highly praised and successful titles across all platforms and genres. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, an action-adventure game that was the first 3D entry in the Zelda series. It featured a vast open world, a time travel mechanic, and a dynamic camera system. It was praised for its graphics, gameplay, sound, and story. It is widely considered one of the best games of all time. It had a huge impact on the development and evolution of 3D action-adventure games, inspiring many other titles that followed its formula of exploration, combat, puzzle solving, and storytelling. We have Half-Life, a first-person shooter game that revolutionized the genre with its immersive storytelling, realistic physics, and scripted events. It featured a silent protagonist, a seamless narrative, and a variety of weapons and enemies. It was acclaimed for its graphics, gameplay, sound, atmosphere. It is regarded as one of the best and most influential shooters of all time. It had a huge impact on the innovation and immersion of first-person shooters, introducing features such as environmental interaction, artificial intelligence, and modding support. Metal Gear Solid, a stealth game that was a sequel to the original Metal Gear games. It featured 3D graphics, voice acting, cinematic cutscenes, and a complex plot. It introduced concepts such as stealth kills, alert modes, and boss battles. It was praised for its graphics, gameplay, sound, and story. It is regarded as one of the best and most influential games of all time. It had a huge impact on popularity and innovation of its stealth games, as well as on the gaming culture and industry as a whole with its themes, characters, and messages. Resident Evil 2, a survival horror game that was a sequel to the original Resident Evil. It featured 2 playable characters with different scenarios, multiple endings, and a zapping system that affected the gameplay depending on the choices made by the player. It was praised for its graphics, gameplay, sound, and horror. It is regarded as one of the best and most influential games in Resident Evil series and the survival horror genre. It had a huge impact on the development and innovation of survival horror games, introducing features such as branching paths, alternate scenarios, and dynamic difficulty. At number 3 we have 2007, a year that saw the release of some of the most influential and successful games in gaming history. Some of the games that defined this year were BioShock, Portal, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, Halo 3, and Super Mario Galaxy. These games not only impress players with their graphics, gameplay, music, but also offer them unforgettable experiences that change gaming forever. For example, BioShock was Irrational Games' first-person shooter that featured a dystopian underwater city, a moral choice system, and a gripping story. Portal 2 was Valve's puzzle platformer that featured a portal gun, a sarcastic AI antagonist, and a catchy song. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare was Infinity Ward's first modern-day shooter that featured an intense campaign, a robust multiplayer mode, and a shocking twist. Halo 3 was Bungie's conclusion to its sci-fi shooter trilogy that featured an epic story, a cooperative mode, and a Forge mode. And Super Mario Galaxy was Nintendo's first Mario game for the Wii that featured gravity-defying gameplay, colorful worlds, and orchestral music.
No one.
At number 2, we have 2011, a year that saw the release of some of the most acclaimed and popular games in gaming history. Some of the games that defined this year were The Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim, Portal 2, Batman Arkham City, Dark Souls, and The Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings. These games not only delivered amazing graphics, gameplay, and storytelling, but also offered rich and immersive worlds that they could explore and shape in different ways. For example, Skyrim was Bethesda's fifth installment in its open-world RPG series that featured a vast and detailed world, a dynamic quest system, and a modding community. Portal 2 was Valve's sequel to its puzzle platformer that featured a longer and more humorous story, a cooperative mode, and a level editor. Batman Arkham City was Rocksteady's sequel to its superhero action-adventure game that featured a larger and more diverse open world, a deeper combat system, and more characters from the Batman universe.
Full of rage. Or does that outfit help bury your feelings, hiding your true self?
The Dark Souls was From Software's spiritual successor to its action RPG Demon's Souls that featured a challenging and rewarding gameplay, an interconnected and mysterious world, and a unique online system.
The unlucky assassin? How did the autopsy go?
And The Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings was CD Projekt Red's sequel to its fantasy RPG that featured a branching and mature story, a responsive combat system, and multiple endings.
And now you tell me he was a witcher?
Possibly. I'm just saying what the autopsy showed.
A rodent a gang.
And finally, at number 1, we have 2010. A year that saw many critically acclaimed titles and new innovations. Some of the games that received high praises from critics and players alike were Red Dead Redemption, Mass Effect 2, God of War 3, Super Mario Galaxy 2, and StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty. These games not only delivered amazing graphics, gameplay, and storytelling, but also created new genres and communities that would shape the gaming landscape for years to come. For example, Red Dead Redemption was Rockstar's Western-themed open-world game that featured a rich and immersive world, a compelling story, and multiplayer mode that allowed players to form poses and engage in various activities.
You always did have a high opinion of yourself, John.
We're at war. No one wants to admit it, but humanity is under attack.
Mass Effect 2 was BioWare's sequel to its sci-fi RPG that featured a diverse and memorable cast of characters, a refined combat system, and a branching story that depends on players' choices.
The Reapers are still out there.
God of War 3 was Sony's Santa Monica's conclusion to its mythological action-adventure series that featured epic setup pieces, brutal combat, and stunning visuals. Super Mario Galaxy 2 was Nintendo's sequel to its acclaimed platformer that featured more levels, power-ups, and challenging than its predecessor.
I wonder, how well do you know
And StarCraft II Wings of Liberty was Blizzard's long-awaited sequel to its real-time strategy game that featured a single-player campaign focused on Terran faction, a competitive multiplayer mode that became an esport phenomenon, and a map editor that allowed players to create their own custom games. 2010 was also the year that Microsoft launched Kinect, a motion sensing device for Xbox 360 that allowed players to control games with their body movement and voice commands. Kinect was a commercial success, selling over 10 million units in its first 2 months. Kinect also enabled new types of games and experiences such as dance, fitness, sport, and adventure games. Some of the popular Kinect games were Dance Central, Kinect Sports, Kinect Adventures, and Child of Eden. That's it for this video, but don't go anywhere. I'm working on another video on the top 10 games of 2023 and a review of newly released game that you don't want to miss. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified when I upload new videos. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps me out a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay nerdy.